Hello everybody, and a warm welcome to today's Home Fun webinar brought to you by Cambridge Assessment English and Cambridge University Press. Good afternoon or good morning or good day, depending where you are in the world at the moment. Great to see so many of you have already arrived, and I'm sure lots more will be joining us as we start off today. Today's Home Fun webinar is, as you can see on the screen, called Home Fun Storyworking, Keeping Distance Teaching Alive. My name's Stuart Finney, and I'm based in Madrid in Spain, where I work with Cambridge Assessment English and Cambridge University Press. And this is...
I'm Sarah. Hello. I'm Sarah Ellis, and I work for Cambridge Assessment English based in Italy. I'm actually speaking to you from a place called Sesto Fiorentino, which is near Florence in Italy. And thank you very much for joining us. It's great to be here with Stuart for this special event.
Great. So before we hand you over to our special guest speaker for today, Jane, we just want to spend a couple of minutes while everybody's joining us in the chat room, in the webinar, just to go over a couple of things. Excuse the big headphones today, by the way. I feel a bit like a DJ. I've got roadworks outside, so it's a little bit noisy if I don't put these on. Anyway, in front of you now, you can see the schedule. If you haven't joined us before, we have put together 5 webinars over the past few days and the coming few days, particularly targeting teachers of young learners or primary age students who are preparing for Cambridge exams, but general young learner teaching. And particularly for those of you who are, like many of us, working from home at the moment or teaching remotely. So today, as you know, we're here for Jane, and we'll look at some of the upcoming events when Sarah and I come back and talk to you at the end.
And during the webinar, just to make things easier, we'd like to recommend that if you have Skype running, that perhaps you turn it off, then it won't interfere. And perhaps if you have other programs running, it might be best to turn them off so that you get full stability during the session. We would like to invite you to write in the chat box on the right, and many of you already are. And in fact, for those of you who haven't already done it, we'd love to know where you're watching us from. So if you could just tell us the country and the name of your town, that would be great. We see we've got people joining from all over the world this afternoon. So thank you very much indeed for that. For technical issues, if you have an issue with connectivity, it's worth trying the refresh button that you can see at the top of your screen. So if you're not getting a good reception, try refresh, and it will bring you back into the webinar again. So that's probably worth trying. Hopefully you won't need it, but if you do, it's there. We wanted to mention a couple of resources now, but we'll also mention them again at the end. And I want to draw your attention to Cambridge Assessment English website, which has a special section called Supporting Every Teacher, as you can see here. And if, Stuart, you can move us, then perhaps we can let those of you who want to use the QR code can access the website straight away.
People are thinking, what does she mean, move us? What does she mean? Okay,
yes, you have to show it how it works.
There we go.
There we go. By magic, we can move out of the way.
So this code down here.
That's even better. Oh, I like that. That's great. So that QR code will take you directly to the website, and from there you'll find resources for teachers, and we'll tell you more about that at the end of the webinar as well. So just over to you, Stuart. Yep,
great. Thanks. And similarly, just to show you, Cambridge University Press is also sharing the Supporting Every Teacher initiative along with Cambridge Assessment English. So go to the Cambridge University Press website and you'll find other stuff as well, blog articles, things about teaching online, lots of free resources. The one shown here we'll come back to later, but I should also say just before we start that all of the handouts and the links to what you see in today's webinar will be made available to you at the end of the webinar. We'll share the handouts with you through this webinar platform. So somewhere at the end.
And for those of you who are wondering, there will be a certificate of attendance, which will be sent to your email address after the event. So look out for that. Check in your spam in case it goes in there. But we will send you an individual attendance certificate.
Great. We're going to be turning off our cameras in a moment as we hand you over to Jane, but we will be back a little bit later.
Yep, exactly. Well, just before we leave it to Jane, I have great pleasure in introducing Jane. And Jane Ritter, of course, has a lot of experience in teaching adults and young learners. In fact, she's been teaching for over 20 years in both Italy and in Hong Kong. She has extensive experience of Cambridge English qualifications as a teacher, but also as an examiner and an examiner trainer. So vast experience there. She is a teacher trainer and a CELTA and Delta tutor. And she has also been involved in several teaching development and teacher training programs for teachers, particularly in Italy, but also in many other countries around the world. She is, of course, the author of the Home Fun booklets for the mover levels, as well as other materials and resources published by Cambridge University Press. Let's not stop without saying that in her free time, she runs around with her two boys and Minnie the dog, and she enjoys cooking, wine, and most things that are Italian because she lives in Italy. So thank you very much, Jane, for joining us. It's a great pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Stuart. Okay. Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I hope you're all safe and well in this slightly difficult time. My name is Jane, and today we'll be working with stories. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to tell you a little story about me. Okay, whoops. Okay. I grew up in Australia and I now live in Naples. I'm passionate about cakes and, most importantly, eating them. I also make them. Okay. Here are some pictures that relate to my life. I live near the sea and I have a net preference for summer over winter. And this is my dog, Minnie. She's at the beach. And one thing that Minnie does when we're at the beach is that she takes up all of the shady space under the umbrella, but I love her all the same. And as you can see, my cake passion extends to her, and once a year I make her a very special cake. End of story. Okay. I want you just to take a minute to think back to what I said, to my introduction and my photos. These letters all represent something about me. Okay. Can you remember what N stands for? Okay. If you can you write it in the chat? I'm just waiting for the chat to catch up. Okay, N. What does N stand for? Oh, very good. You were listening very carefully. And what about A? Do you remember what A was? Okay, I can see the answers coming through now. Very good. Australia. And M? What might M stand for? Yes, I can see them come. Yes, it's Minnie. E, I'll give you a clue. What does E stand for? It's something that I'm quite passionate about, and I have left this little cake here for one of my favourite centre exams managers, Georgia, if you're there today. She makes the most brilliant cakes. Yes, okay. So Naples, Australia, Minnie, and eating cakes. Very good, everyone. Okay, so today we're going to look at the following. We're going to look at simple story working tips to bring the classroom back to life. And I say story working because I'd like you to work through the activities with me as you may with your students. Okay. We're going to look at some practical ideas for using stories both online and offline, as some of us are still working online. And we're going to think about how we can continue to prepare our students for Cambridge pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers. We're also going to look at where you can source materials. And I mention materials as in a recent survey I did of my primary teachers, but also examiners in the southwest of Italy. Thank you to you guys for your input. I asked, what support do you need to better prepare your learners? And their responses look something like this. Okay. This is a word cloud, and it shows the responses. They were open responses, and the bigger words were the ones that were mentioned more frequently. So you can see that online, material, speaking, practice were words that really that were really mentioned frequently. Which words resonate with you? Okay, can you write one area of support that you need in the chat? Okay, I'm just waiting for the chat to come back to life. So again, which words resonate with you and one area of support that you need in the chat? Okay, material, online, material. Okay, so hopefully today, I hope some of the activities that we work through will help. And as Stuart and Sarah said, throughout we'll be sharing links where you can access materials, and there'll also be a handout for you to download at the end. Okay, so let's think about why we use stories in the language classroom. Do you use stories in your lessons? How often? Okay, I'm going to launch a poll. Okay, it will take a minute just to load, but could you click on the answer? Oh, every week is very popular. Okay, so every week, 62%, twice a month, 16, once a month. So I'm going to end the poll in just a second and show you the results. Okay. Okay, so most people use stories every week, which is great. You're all story workers. Okay. I've ended the poll. So let's think about linguistic reasons for using stories. Why do you use them? Okay, obviously they're a great starting point for further language work. Can you add any other linguistic reasons for using stories in the chat? Okay, linguistic reasons for using them. Why do you use them? Past tense revision, developing vocabulary, excellent. To practice grammar, to teach, okay, to widen vocabulary, great. Okay, contextualized, good revision, excellent. So obviously there's lots of repetition, they're good for revision, language is contextualized, they consolidate, they help consolidate language, and they're a good model. Lovely ideas, thank you everyone. Okay, now I'd like you to think about some non-linguistic reasons for using stories. Okay, why do you use them? one of the main reasons is probably because they're fun, okay? To get familiar with a topic, okay? To remember sequences, excellent. To understand culture, great. To engage students, fun. Creativity, good. Excellent. Obviously, yeah, they help learners relax, they spark imagination, they stimulate creativity. And in some cases, yes, you can learn about different cultures and a variety of social issues. Wow, there are so many, so many responses. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay. All right, I want you to think back to my story at the beginning of the session. Okay, it's an activity that involves a bit of linguistic and non-linguistic. There are pictures, and the pictures answer questions: who, why, who, where, who, and what. Sorry, I'm just... okay, this is an activity that you can actually use with your own learners. Okay, what I usually do is I ask them to go and find a picture of a place, a picture of a person. Obviously, in my heart, my dog is a person. I'm a bit sad like that, but and an object. Okay, I obviously couldn't bring my cake into the webinar, but if you're working online with your learners, they could bring an item that they're fond of, an object that they'd like to talk about. And with these 3 items, they invent a story. Okay, they can choose the WH question words in any order, and they come to class and they can talk. And obviously, it's fun and it sparks imagination. If you're working online with your students, you can actually get them to practice telling their stories to each other in breakout rooms, and then maybe join the class to present their stories. Depending on the level of your learners may need scaffolding to help them build their story. Okay, so for example, I live in Naples. This is the view from my bathroom window. It's near the sea. This is my dog. She's sometimes quite naughty. Okay, and this is a cake that I make for her every year. Okay, let's look at another story. Okay, let's look at another story. This story would be suitable for students preparing for movers. Okay, but before we start, I want you to look at the letters on the next slide and tell me what words I'm thinking of. Okay, what words could these letters represent? Write them in the chat. I seem to have a frozen chat. There you are. Okay, yes, exactly. It's I'm thinking of the days of the week. Very, very good. Okay, let's get on with the story. Before we start, this is Woody. Obviously, you haven't met Woody before, but looking at her, what does she like doing and where does she like to go? Okay, looking at little Woody, what does she like doing and where does she like to go? If you can, write them in the chat. Okay, singing, outdoors, singing, reading, swimming at the beach. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, whoops. Now I'm going to get you to, we're going to read the first part of the story, and I want you to check to see if your predictions were correct. Okay. Woody's books. Woody loves reading, and her favourite place is the library. On Monday, Woody went to the library and got 2 books. She enjoyed them and she read them very quickly. She was sad when she went to bed. She didn't have a book to read. Why didn't I get 3 books, she thought. Were you correct? I think a lot of you were. Good. Yes. Woody likes reading and she likes going to the library. Okay. We're going to read the next part of the story. Okay. I want you just to think for a minute. You don't need to write in the chat. If you want to, you're more than welcome to. I just want you to think, what did she do on Tuesday and what did she do on Wednesday? Just thinking. What did she do on Tuesday and what did she do on Wednesday? I can see library. Good. Okay. I want you now to read and check your predictions. This time, I just want you to read and check. Yes, she went back to the library and she got the books and she finished them. And then Wednesday, the same thing happened. So what happened on Thursday? What do you think happened on Thursday? She goes on an outing. Thursday, she got 5 books. Reading again and reading again. Okay. I want you to read and check. On Thursday, the library was closed. Woody stayed at home. She was sad because she had nothing to read. Okay, there were so many. Okay, so Thursday, what comes after Thursday? Friday, good. How will the story end? Goes to the library again. She chills out. Okay, she slept in the library. She spent the day reading. Oh, it is a bit sad, but there's a happy ending. Don't worry. Okay. Have you thought about what happens on Friday? How the story ends? Okay. Have a read. She'll buy a library. It's brilliant. Okay, so Woody chose 4 big books and she read the last book in bed. Books are brilliant. Okay, and here is the story in full. Okay, while we were doing this activity, for some parts of the story, I got you to read and other parts I read aloud to you. Okay, both techniques are valid. It's good to vary. Choose to do will depend on your confidence and what your students expect from you. If you don't feel confident about reading the story yourself, there is a recording that you can use, and there's also an animated version of the story, which I will show you right now.
Woody's books.
Woody loves reading, and her favourite place is the library. On Monday, Woody went to the library and got 2 books. She enjoyed them and read them very quickly. She was sad when she went to bed. She didn't have a book to read. Oh, why didn't I get 3 books? She thought. On Tuesday, she went to the library again and got 3 books. But she finished the books before dinner. Oh no! I don't have a book to read in bed, she said. On Wednesday, Woody went to the library again and got 4 books. She read the last book after dinner. But she didn't have a book to read in bed. On Thursday, the library was closed. Woody stayed at home. She was sad because she had nothing to read. On Friday, Woody went to the library again. "Hello, Mrs. Swan," she said to the librarian. "Can I take 5 books?" "Sorry, Woody. You can only take 4 books in one day," said Mrs. Swan. So Woody chose 4 big books. She read the last book in bed. "Books are brilliant," said Woody.
Oops. Okay. So you can use the video, obviously, to introduce the story, pausing where appropriate, or you can just use it so students can watch the story again. If you have SPLD learners, you may want to send it to them in advance. And that's quite easy to do. If you can see up on the top right-hand corner of the page, there is a QR code. This is also useful for learners who perhaps don't have access to a computer all the time. They can watch it on a phone or a tablet using the camera function to get the video, and they can watch it as often as they want. Okay. There's also a very simple follow-up activity that students can do, and there's a lot of language that you can actually pull out of the story. So take a minute just to look at it. Does it have a linguistic or a non-linguistic focus? Does it have a linguistic focus or non-linguistic? Just waiting for the chat to catch up. I'm glad you love Woody. Linguistic, yep. So we're looking at days of the week, okay, numbers, but they're also non-linguistic. There's a bit of CLIL, sort of maths, adding up the number of books that they read. Okay, so depending on your student's level and the focus of the lesson, you could do some further language work, pulling out the past simple, or you could focus on some of the sounds that appear in the story. For example, w appears quite frequently in the story. Okay, can you think of words that contain the w sound? Obviously, we've got Woody. Can you think of any other words that have the w sound or start with w? Week, wood, Wednesday, water, why? Okay, excellent. Yes. Okay, great. Very good, everyone. Okay, my little student here wrote his words on his mini board. Okay, so, and if you're working with online groups, this is a great way to check they're following the lesson. Okay, a tiny tip though, if you plan to use mini boards and want them to write a lot of words, would be to get them to check their camera settings. Okay, some programs automatically activate mirror function or not, and if you don't check beforehand, it could mean that you are reading all the words backwards, and that's quite difficult if you have a large class. Okay, another sound that appears quite frequently in the story is the soft oo, as in book. Okay. Can you think of other words with this sound in them? With the sound, like book. Woody, yeah. Look, took, foot. Okay, excellent. Very, very good, everyone. Okay, so yeah, here's my little student back again with his examples. Okay, obviously not everyone has a mini board at home, but I just wanted to show you this picture of him so you can see that they're quite easy to make. Students need a plastic pocket and some paper, or even better, some card inside, and they write and clean and use it again for further use in class. Okay. If you like this Woody story, there's a second in the Fun Skills Home Booklet 4, which is freely downloadable from the Cambridge World of Better Learning ELT blog. Here, Woody reads everywhere. So to follow up, you could get your students to produce their own version of places where Woody likes to read in their home, or how they like to read. And in a certain sense, this is just giving them a little bit more preparation for speaking part 4 of Movers, where they're often asked, you know, what do they like doing in their home? Where do they like doing things? As you can see, there's the QR code again, and some very simple follow-up activities. Okay, a link is here, but we'll also be showing it with a downloadable worksheet at the end of the session. Okay. As our students are at home, another non-linguistic follow-up activity would be to ask your students to go and find their favourite book and be ready to show it to the class and talk about it. So if you're working online, you could just get them to switch off for 20 minutes and go and find their favourite book, or you could meet another day. If you're teaching asynchronously, they could send a summary and a picture of the book to you. Remember to always give an example of what you want them to do. So, for example, you can see the cover of this book. This is my favorite book. It's about a character called Sister Brute, who asks her mum for a doll, and her mum gives her a stone. Okay, but she loves it. She dresses it and puts clothes on it. And then she goes out walking and she meets a horrible dog with hobnail boots who says, "Love me, or I'll kick you with my hobnail boots." She says no, but the dog follows her until she gives in. In the end, Sister Brute loves them all, the stone doll and the dog with the hobnail boots. And I'm sure you can guess who my favourite character is. Me and dogs. Okay. Again, if you're going to use an activity like this, do give some scaffolding. Okay, so some STEM sentences, which might help them to talk about or write about their favourite book. Okay, let's use another story. Okay, this story would be suitable if you're preparing your students for starters. Okay. And this is Captain Zoom. Okay, can you look at the picture of Captain Zoom and tell me, where is he? How is he traveling? Can you write it in the chat? Where is Captain Zoom, or how is he traveling? Yes, he's in a plane. Great, great, everyone. Yes, he's in a plane. So now I'm going to very quickly show you some other forms of transport. Okay, and I want you to remember the words. Are you ready? Here they are. What are the forms of transport? Can you remember? I'm just waiting for the chat to catch up. Can you remember the transport? Okay. I can see. Good. Great. Okay. I'll just let you check again. Yep. There's a bike, there's a boat, and there's a skateboard. Very good, everyone. Really good answers. Okay. So An activity to keep our learners preparing for the Young Learners Test could be the following. Look at the sentence and the picture and put a tick or a cross in the chat. A tick or a cross in the chat. Tick if it's correct, cross if it's incorrect. Tick, tick, tick. Very good, everyone. Okay. Yes, tick. This is a boat. Okay. And you can see my student again. Obviously, if you're working online, you could ask them to make tick or cross cards. Okay. And this helps you to see that the students are engaged. Okay. If you're working asynchronously, this vocab checking activity is really good practice for reading and writing part 2 of starters, where students write a tick or a cross. And there's a really nice tick, pretty. That's excellent. In the chat box. Yeah, it's a good activity where they read and write a tick or a cross. Okay, what about this one? Tick or cross? Okay. Amra suggests we can use thumb up, thumb down. Yes, we can. That's really good. But if we're preparing our students for the Cambridge starters, we want them to be working so that tick and cross are almost automatic. Yes, indeed. This is not a truck, it's a bike. Very good, everyone. Okay. Now I want you to watch the story of Captain Zoom. And I want you to remember when Captain Zoom zooms. Okay. When does Captain Zoom zoom? Are you ready to watch? Okay.
Captain Zoom. Every day, I zoom, zoom, zoom on my bike in the morning. And on my boat in the afternoon. On my skateboard in the evening. And on my plane to that yellow moon. Sometimes I zoom into a tree. Ouch! So now I wear protection, you see. Zooming is cool!
Okay, so can you remember when Captain Zoom zooms? All right, what do you remember? This time I want you to write yes or no in the chat. Like with tick and cross, rather than saying true or false, we want to get our students into the habit of saying yes or saying or writing yes or no, okay, as they will be asked to do in the starters test. Okay, is this correct? Yes or no? Do you remember? Very good, everyone. Okay, and again, here's my student, and he's got a yes card this time rather than a tick or a cross. What about the next one? Zoom zooms on his skateboard in the afternoon. Is it yes or no? Good, I'm just waiting for the... Very good, everyone. He zooms on his skateboard in the afternoon. Very good. Okay. And here's my student with his no card. Okay. So to follow up, on the World of Fun website, you can download these finger puppets. Okay. You could get your learners to repeat the story and act it out, or invent another Zoom story. So where is Zoom zooming today and how is he zooming? Okay, or any other fun activities with Captain Zoom. Okay, there's a follow-up story in the home booklet that you can download where Zoom becomes a superhero, but I'll leave you to have a look at that on the blog. Let's just look at another story. Okay, this is probably more appropriate if you're preparing learners for flyers, and it's from Fun Skills. Okay, this is great preparation for speaking part 3. As you can see, we've got the 5 images that tell a story. The first one is done for them, as it would be in the speaking test, and then learners think about how the story continues. Okay, they should predict it, obviously speaking to a partner or speaking on their own. Okay, in part this is also really good practice for reading and writing part 7, where they're thinking about the sequence of a story. But obviously for reading and writing part 7 it's shorter, they only have 3 pictures. Okay, the students then go on to match the pictures to the texts, and they've got the first one done for them as an example. This then serves as a model for their own stories. Okay, and here they've got a really lovely guided scaffolding, okay, which helps them to plan each picture. So who's the story about? What are their names? Where are they? What are they doing? What happens first? Picture 2, who do they meet, etc. So the learners really get a chance to think about what the content of their story is, and then they have a picture plan where they can visually plan the story and think about what the characters are going to say. Okay, so let's just quickly recap on what we've done today. Some tips to keep learners engaged are obviously things like mini boards. That's a good way to check that students are with you, okay, and that they're engaged. Remember, you don't need a mini board. They're quite easy to make with a plastic pocket and a piece of paper. Okay, answer cards, tick and cross, and yes and no, because these are the kind of things that we want to become automatic for when they do the young learners tests. Polls and chats are a great way for you to check that everyone's with you, okay, if you are teaching online. Photos and pictures around the house are great for building stories. If students choose them, they're more likely to write about them, okay. Scaffold as much as you can. So clear models, examples, and STEM sentences are really important for learners, and it means for them the task is clear. Okay. While we're working from home, we have obviously access to a lot more realia. So don't be afraid of switching off for 20 minutes while your students go and find their favorite book, their favorite toy, and come back and talk about it. And obviously finger puppets. Okay, I've got Captain Zoom. Okay, I've also got Woody. Okay, and the other characters from the stories are great storyworking tools. Okay, thinking about why we use stories. Obviously they involve repetition, okay, and frequent repetition obviously allows language to become acquired and reinforced. Okay, stories contain a lot of repetition of key vocabulary and structures which stick in their minds and help them to remember the story. They're natural. Telling stories for children is quite natural for them in their L1, and they don't really see it as learning when they're doing it in L2. It therefore provides an ideal introduction to L2 presented in context that is familiar. Okay, they're also a rich source of input. It can introduce them to a lot of structures and vocabulary which they don't necessarily need to use productively, but hopefully this will become a part of the child's bank of stored language which may be activated in the future. they're meaning focused, and children are experts at understanding gist. So they actively seek meaning in a story as opposed to individual words or structures. Okay. And they're obviously rewarded by their ability to understand. Okay. They're a stimulus for speaking and writing, and the experience of a story encourages responses through speaking and writing. It's obviously natural for us to express our likes and dislikes and exchange ideas and associations related to stories we hear or read. In this way, stories can actually be part of a set of related activities, and they are motivating. Children will nearly always be willing to listen or read because stories are intrinsically interesting to children. Okay. I'm going to pass you back to Stuart and Sarah.
Hello. Thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you.
That was a
great.
lovely session again, because of course we know that you did this morning.
It's nice and practical.
Most people attending probably don't know that you also did this morning.
Okay.
If you have seen two, then wow.
Yeah, one thing I did actually forget to mention was that there are 6 or 7 stories like these in each of the home booklets that you can download from the blog. So there's a lot of material for you to use with your students, and they're short and they're fun, and they can reach learners that are working online or offline.
Great. And 6 or 7, per level, I think. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 In fact, Paola, I know, has already put a link in once to the download links for those 3 Fun Skills home booklets. All of the materials that Jane has shared with us today, or most of them, should I say, come directly from our new Fun Skills course for primary learners of English, preparing them for the Young Learner exams. That's starters, the movers, and the flyers exams.
Stuart, move us, Stuart, so they can see the whole series.
Okay.
And I'm sure you'd have seen from today, most of these activities, it doesn't really matter which stories you're using. The principles remain the same, and you can wrap those around different stories that you are using. If you are interested in these materials, there are links that are going to be shared with you soon or right now in your handouts. Your handouts should be available at the bottom of your screen as a file. So click on those now.
There are 3. There are 3, so make sure you get the 3. Yeah,
get the 3. We've released 3 levels, 3 of the home booklet as free giveaways to teachers at the moment, and Jane has been working as a writer on some of those levels. So each of those 3 levels have their own stories, and 6 stories per level. So you've got loads of resources to play around with there, plus the handouts from today. So have a look, explore. Just to hand you back to Sarah.
Yeah, okay. And just for those of you perhaps might have missed it at the beginning, this is the Cambridge Assessment English website, which has a special section for supporting teachers, particularly at this time. And resources have been put together to make them much more accessible and easy to find. And you'll find lesson plans, you'll find flashcards for young learners, you'll find resources for each of the exams. You can see under exams and tests, if you click on that, you'll get a list of the young learner tests. So pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers, and then you can obviously look at the resources under each one of the ones that you're interested in. And if anybody wants to go have the quick route, the QR code will take you straight there. And I'm sure Paola's putting the link into the chat as well. But really, there's lots of new material, and it's being updated all the time. When you actually click on that, you'll get to find the teacher support pack. So look for the teacher support pack. And when you click on that, it's interactive. And as this is obviously just the first page, if you click to the next page, you'll find the resources specifically for young learner tests and for primary age students. And there are lots and lots of resources there. So we would encourage you to go and have a look at those and download the free materials. And over to you, Stuart.
Yeah, well, similar to you, Sarah. Just lots more stuff for you to have a look at over here. I'll just move our cameras.
Yes.
So you see the link.
there's some really interesting articles in here for all levels, but particularly also for primary. There's lots and lots of new things have been put on there very recently, haven't they?
It's updated daily, and it's very much global in its approach, and all kinds of stuff on articles, as Sarah says, on teaching young learners, as well as general tips on how to sort of do lessons online and resources you can use online. This one here, you can see at the bottom of the screen, is just showing actually one of the home booklets that we've shared with you today. So that those are up there as well, but links are on the handouts, as we've said. You're asking about certificates. So just quickly to say, certificates, bear with us, they're coming soon. We'll be getting them out in the next few days, very soon. So they'll be automatically generated to your email with your name on them.
Yes, and if it's probably worth if you don't see it, it might be worth checking in your spam, because sometimes for some reason they go into people's spam. So just have a little look. But obviously, do contact us. Give us a couple of days, but they will get to you. And Paola's looking after that. So thank you to Paola.
More generally, just more stuff, really, more free stuff you can have a look at. This is our World of Fun website. If you're not familiar with this, you go and have a look. This takes you to loads of articles and downloads. Some great stuff, for example, flashcards for all of the Young Learner vocabulary words. You can download for free from here. Posters for movers, for starters, for flyers, you can download from here. Finger puppets, as you saw before, all kinds of different ideas, loads and loads of stuff for teaching young learners here. And lots of this you can adapt to the online environment, no problem. And then finally, just to say, well, Sarah, do you want to?
Yes, obviously we hope you're going to join us for some of the other sessions, and here you can see the next one is obviously just 2 days away, and we're very pleased to have Anne Robinson come back again to do another session looking at writing this time, and she'll give us lots of practical ideas for that session. And then, of course, Jane will be back next week.
You're coming back, Jane?
Yes, so don't miss that as well. And then we're very lucky that they will be both together on Tuesday. So we've got Monday, we have Jane, and then on Tuesday, Jane and Anne will actually be doing a webinar together. So we get a double dose, which is really exciting.
Great. And you can find these webinars on our all the websites. That's Cambridge Assessment English or Cambridge University Press, the global websites, or if you're in a country like Spain or Italy, you can also find those on your local regional websites. In Spain, that's cambridge.es, and in Italy,
it's cambridge.it. And of course, for the countries we haven't mentioned, you will find information under Cambridge University Press for your local distributor, etc. So it's worth investigating that if you want to know where to get the materials when we get back to normal as well.
Great. Well, I don't know if any of you have any questions before we leave you. There's a little bit of a delay usually on the chat box, but if you have a question, do type it into the chat box now.
Yeah.
And Jane's come back, so we're going to
make. Is there a recording?
Yes, there will be recordings. It's being recorded as we speak. So those links will be shared with you. And also, Jane has kindly agreed to write in a blog post, which will follow on from this webinar you've seen today. The blog will go up in a few days on our global World of Better Learning blog site. That's with Cambridge University Press. But you'll see crossed over onto Cambridge Assessment English, I'm sure. And that would include a recording of today. Lots of thank yous, but no questions.
Thank you.
So I guess that means,
Yes.
Do we register for the coming events? Yeah. If you need to register for the coming events, go to our global websites. That's cambridgeenglish.org or cambridge.org, and you'll have to navigate. It's quite easy. Just navigate through the teachers set and then webinars. You'll find it.
Webinars.
Or just Google the name that you see here if you can't find it.
Yes, you need to register for each one. So choose the time that suits you best, and then you save it.
You'll find us somehow, and once we keep reminding you once you get us.
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions before we go? Anything you want to say or ask while we've got Jane sitting in the middle here?
Lots of thank yous, as you said, but not many questions.
Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jane.
Clear. That's nice to hear. Okay, wonderful. Well, have a nice rest of day wherever you are, and I really hope to see all of you, if not most of you, join us again on Wednesday. I have to keep thinking of the right time.
Yes.
Wednesday. So come along on Wednesday, same times, 10 o'clock in the morning or 3 p.m. for the Central European times, adjusted to whichever time zone you sit in. So thank you so much, Jane. She's off.
Yes, she's gone, but thank you very much, Jane. Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much, Jane. Sarah,
Thank
see
you.
again on Wednesday.
Thank you to
Bye, everyone.
To Paula, who's also
Paula's
been
been in the
and thank
chat
you,
box
Paula,
helping us.
for all
Thank
your
you,
links.
Paula, very much. Yeah. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next
Bye.
time.